And let's click on this guy right here, since he's going to be the main guy of the movie. He's going to be in the front. So let's just double click and open up him in Photoshop. And I'm going to select the Move tool, click and drag him over to the project. Then we will just go ahead and close this image out right here. We no longer need that. All right, next what I'm going to want to do is convert this layer into a smart object. Now, if you don't have Photoshop CS2 or higher, then just go ahead and skip this part. But the smart objects allow us to create non-destructible layers and objects. And so, because this way later on, if we need to resize things, then we can do it without losing any quality. But just go ahead and skip this part if you don't have the newest version of Photoshop. That's okay. So I'm going to rename this layer to Man 1. And we're going to come up here to Layer, Smart Object, and group into Smart Object. And we know it's a Smart Object because we see the Smart Object icon at the bottom right of the thumbnail, right there. Great. Let's go ahead up here to Edit, Free Transform, and I'll hold down Alt and Shift. Now that's Option and Shift, and I'm only doing that so I can maintain the image's aspect ratio while I resize it down. Look at that. And if I don't hold down Alt, then then it'll allow me to resize it to one of the corners. But if I hold down Alt, then it'll resize from the center out, or out to the center. Either way. So let's resize this down and position this somewhere on the poster, preferably in the top middle area of the poster here. I'm going to go ahead and confirm this by pressing the Enter key on the keyboard. Great. Now let's just zoom into the image here and take a look at this. Well, we need to make it look like his face is just coming out of the sky. You know what I mean? So it looks like he's just peeping his head or his face out of the sky. And so we need to mask all the area around him, around his head. So let's make a mask or a layer mask on this Man 1 layer or smart object. Come down to the bottom of the layers palette, click on this button right here, which will allow us to create a layer mask. Great. Let's make sure that's activated. Come over to the layers palette, click on the brush, and I will make this a larger brush. And then I'll bring this brush over here and start painting on the side of him, just like this. It's a lot of fun. It's really not that hard to do. And I'll just paint down here and up. And the cool thing is that we are not actually using the eraser tool and erasing away this layer. We are only using a mask. So we can come back here anytime and change the foreground color to white and bring back the areas that we removed or painted on in the mask. Look at that. And that is why I like to use layer masks, and I think everybody should. But check that out. If you want to get a better look at it, you can make these other layers invisible over here, and you can see exactly what you're doing. But the important thing is that it must look good with the background. I want to go ahead and make these visible. Here we go. Now, I don't want to go too crazy right now because I haven't incorporated the other people's heads into the image. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Let's go over to the Adobe Bridge and let's see who's going to be next. How about this guy right here with the cool glasses on? I'll go ahead and double click him, and he's already masked and everything, as you can see. So I'll select the Move tool and click and drag him over to the project. Now he's pretty big, so what I'm going to do is just drag him below Man 1, and we're going to call him Man 2. All right, now let's go up here to Layer, Smart Object, and group him into a Smart Object as well. Over here to Edit, Free Transform, and let's resize him down. Okay, it would look better if he was probably tilting out like this. So if you do have to, you can rotate things, do whatever you want here. I'm really focusing on having this type of shape. And if I'm not totally happy with the transformation right now, I can just come back and do it later because we have a smart object. But there we go. Okay, that looks really good. I don't want to get too fussy with this right now. I'm going to go ahead and press the Enter key on the keyboard. Now, let's go ahead and add some more people into the project. Back to the Adobe Bridge. And how about this guy right here? Double click on him. And I will click on the Move tool and drag him into the project. And he's a lot bigger, so we're going to come up here to, first thing, Layer, Smart Object, Group into Smart Object. And then over to Edit, Free Transform. And I will just transform him down. And I'll probably go over here to Transform and flip him horizontally, just like this. And then I'll just make him over here sticking out of the ear, sort of. Keep in mind that I want the tops of their heads to be very close to the same. I want that nice composition. I want that nice even look. I don't want his head down here. I want it all to be very balanced. Balanced is the word I'm looking for. So, but check this out. This looks really good. And I'll just go ahead and I'll make it a little bit smaller, and then I'll confirm that. Great. And let's name this Man 3. There we go. Let's bring in some more. Back to the Adobe Bridge. And this girl right here. This woman right here, I will double click on that to bring her in. The Move tool, click, drag her over to the project. All right, then I'm going to go over to the Layers palette and drag her below Man 2, because she's going to be all the way in the back. She's going to be way back there. So let's name her Woman 1. And let's convert her into a smart object. I'll group that into a smart object, and then I will come up here to Edit, Free Transform, hold down Alt and Shift, and we'll resize this down. And I'm going to rotate her a little bit so we're able to see her face there. Also keep in mind that look at the eyes. Make sure the eyes are lining up very good, because then you're going to have a lot better composition as well. And so that's very important too. I'm going to rotate this. I'm going to go ahead and press the Enter key on the keyboard to confirm that. Great. Let's bring one more person into the project. Back on the Adobe Bridge. And this woman right here. Let's double click on her and load her into Photoshop. I'll select the Move tool, click and drag her over to the project. And let's just give her a name, Woman 2. And I can drag her below here, but it's probably not necessary. I'm going to come over here to Edit, Transform, and flip her horizontally so she's pointing this way. And let's go over here to Layer and make her a smart object as well. There we go. And then while we're at it here, we can just close these other images back here because we no longer need them. And it'd be a good time at this point to go ahead and save your image if you haven't already, before we move on. All right. Now I'm going to come over here to Edit, Transform, and transform this woman down a little bit. I want to make sure that her head is the same size as this woman's head over here. And that's going to create a nice balance as well. You see that? So I'm being very picky here at all these little details, but they are going to make all the difference at the very end. Look at that. And I'll pay attention to the eyes. I want to line these eyes up all the way across. They don't have to be straight across, but they can almost have a very slight curve to them. And I want to make sure the heads are going at the same angles, just like this woman over here. And when I like it, I'll go ahead and press the enter button. There we go. So we've merged all the people into the movie poster. So now we have to just go through and do some masking to make all this blend together so it looks like this over here. Where do we start? Well, let's go ahead and I'm going to touch up this man number 1 over here. I'll click on his layer mask, and with the paintbrush, I'm going to make a larger brush, and I'm just going to make his collar fade back into the background like this. Look at that. And I can make that a little bit larger. There we go. And let's go ahead and move over to the glasses guy over here. And so I'll click on man number 2, and I'll make this layers, the thumbnails, just a little bit larger. And by the way, the way I'm doing that is if you want the thumbnails larger in the layers palette. Most people know how to do this already, but for those of you that don't know yet, in the layers palette, if you come up to the very top right, click on this little arrow button right here and come all the way down to the very bottom. You'll find the palette options right here, and you can set how large you want the thumbnail to be. You can also set, and recently in Photoshop CS and Photoshop CS2, you can now set the thumbnails to only display the layers bounds. Is this cool or what? And so what that means is that you see how the layer looks now. It's showing the entire full size of the image, and then it shows the contents of the layer exactly where it's located. Well, if I select layer bounds, then it's just going to show the objects on those layers and not all the space that's around them. I'm going to come over to the guy with the glasses, man number 2, and then down to the bottom of the layers palette, I'm going to click on this button right here to create a new layer mask. There we go. And then over to the toolbar, let's make sure that's set to black, and then I will right click and make this brush just a little bit smaller, and I'll come in here and paint on him, making him blend in or fade out into the background, just like this. There we go. Now the lightness of his face, I'm not going to worry about that right now, but it looks like this guy's ear, man number 1, it looks like his ear is kind of running over into man 2. So let's go ahead and click on his layer mask, man 1, and we will just use the brush, and I will probably make that a little bit smaller. Back on man 1. There we go, something like that. Perfect. Okay, and let's just move on here to man number 3. Let's make a new layer mask and click on the toolbar, and then I will come in here, and we've got to fix the top of his head here because that's just not going to look right. Just want that to blend in with the background. Look at that. Okay, good. And I will fix the bottom here of his neck. And it looks like I'll just go ahead and move over to the woman number 2 over here. And I'll create a layer mask with the paintbrush. And I'll just paint in here. And I have such a habit of right-clicking, but we can also use the brackets on the keyboard to make the brush larger or smaller. Okay? And I'll just come in here and paint away. Make sure I get his neck there. There we go. Great. Let's go over to man 1, and I'm just going to paint the mask over the very top of his head just to fade that in a little bit more, like this. There we go. And let's look over at woman number 2, or woman number 1 actually. Let's make a layer mask on her layer and touch up her neck here at the very bottom. Look at that. Great. Okay, well, that looks pretty good. And that's pretty close to what we want, is what you see right here. Now, the colors don't blend in together at all. And I will be getting to that in just a moment. And I'm going to show you how to actually add a color overlay so all the images inside this poster blend in together. Go over here to the layers palette, and I want you to click on the topmost layer right here, man number 1, and let's just make a new layer on top of him. And let's just call this color overlay. And let's fill this layer in with the color that we will be using to blend everything in together. Let's come over to the toolbar and click on the foreground color right here. And then down here where you see the hex value input right here, I want you to enter in 864200. And that will give us that golden brown look or color that we need to make this look right. And then go ahead and click OK. Come over to the toolbar and select the paint bucket tool. Click on the image to fill it in completely like this. Then I want you to come over to the opacity of that layer and turn it down just a touch. 85 or 65% will be just fine. But more importantly, I want you to come over to the layer blending mode menu for that layer. Come all the way down where you'll find color right here. Go ahead and click on that, and now that will blend everything in together. And we can control the opacity so we can have a little bit of the original color and then bring in some of the new color that we've created as well. And so you can have a nice blend there, or you can just go full blast if you want to, but I like to have a little bit of the original color in there mixed in with our color overlay.